Hello, folks. Something's telling me not to do this, but this is your best case scenario podcast. I am your host, the friend of the people, and to my left.
Is D Johnson as always.
All right.
We are back. We are back. We are back. And if you don't know about the Best Case Scenario podcast, you know we're back because my phone immediately decides to jump in the mix and throw off an ill news signal for
Are
us.
you getting like, or do you get like a notification whenever we come on?
I think so.
That's probably what it is because he did the right thing. He subscribed to the Soapbox Heroes Network.
I hit that
You
bell,
can
baby.
also get a notification whenever the Best Case Scenario podcast, Mean Knowledge, or the Soapbox Heroes show that comes on every weekday between 5 and 7 p.m. comes to light. Oh my goodness, it's been a disaster. And we keep on stroking.
And we keep on working.
It's like me in the bedroom, huh? It's been a disaster, but we keep on stroking.
We keep on getting it in.
Hey, click the like, subscribe, if you really like us. And if you want to get everything,
hit the notification bell.
Hit that notification bell, and you will never miss a video. I promise.
On God. So we had an interesting show for you tonight. Some things in the news have been itching my brain. Pretty sure front of the people gonna have something he bring up too. But here's where I'm gonna start this conversation at. We had the time of the year person being Greta Thunberg, and it's without saying we've had a lot of people hate this decision.
I love it.
I can't see anything wrong with her being the Time Person of the Year, but our Commander-in-Chief seems to see that it wasn't the best choice.
Mm-hmm.
The tweet that he immediately released, or he didn't immediately release it, which was kind of interesting because, Twitter fingers is really quick, but he didn't release it immediately. He waited a little bit, and he came out, and he just told her, she should chill. My thing, and me and friends of the people have talked about this for the last couple of hours before we even came live to our lovely people that listen out there, is that Greta Thunberg is representing something that we all know is true. In fact, we need to worry about climate change. Climate change is something that affects all of the children we have. It's going to be something that's going to be around long after we're gone. It sounds like boomers are mad. But at the same token, was Greta Thunberg the right choice?
I believe so. And the reason being is she's gotten a lot done in a little bit of time. And when we're talking about the Time Person of the Year, the year is the main thing. And when we're talking about what's happened this year, and she is a person, an average, regular person,
She is
giving a legitimate response to an existential threat. And she is speaking truth to power like very few have.
Now, when you say she's an average everyday Joe, and here's the only problem I have with that, is she's not necessarily just an average everyday Joe. Her family is well known in Sweden.
But what's that have to do with her? She's not well
I
known.
mean, when you inherit the names of the people that came before you, you are rarely a product of your own creation. Most things and most people around you have to have an influence on that. And her having famous names that have been in the Swedish government or in entertainment, she had a platform that was given to her that most don't have.
Tell that to Michael Jordan Jr.
Oh my God, Michael Jordan Jr. is not a great basketball player. It's not as if he...
Right, so that means despite the name, if he wants to get in the NBA, he'd have to earn his spot.
He would.
Well, Greta Thunberg, yeah, she had the name, and that might have been one type of advantage, but she's earned the spot. And now she's Time Person of the Year.
And congratulations on that. But as I said before, there are others that have done more legwork, and we've had this conversation.
Jerry
When I want to
Rice
talk
Jr.,
about
perhaps?
we're talking about we're throwing pennies in the lake right now. We know damn well Jerry Rice Jr. living up to his daddy's name. Ain't gonna be no logos. Ain't gonna be no baby logos. But what I'm saying when I talk about Greta Thunberg is, simply put, we have many people that have been doing a lot in the name of conservationism to keep it at the forefront. But not only have they matched their activism, with not only have they done the activism, but they've also done the legwork as far as the science and the homework to make it something that's relevant. When we're talking about a Greta Thunberg, that's where I feel she falls short. And that's all I'm saying as far as she's concerned, because again, the activism is not important or not unimportant in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. Well, what I say is this. You have to understand something when you're talking about person of the year. Okay? And person of the year ain't necessarily just by who did the most.
Right.
You have to have something that other people don't have. So we're going to go ahead and you first of all, go ahead and talk about. Give me your case for Boy and Slat.
We talked about people that I felt have been overlooked in the last couple of years, and the first one that I bring to light is Boyan Slat. Now, Boyan Slat leads the ocean cleanup. He's the CEO of the ocean cleanup, and one of the things that he's developed is devices that will clear the ocean of plastic by 2040. And when we're talking about undertaking projects, when we're talking about looking at what can cause change, you're talking about somebody who is literally going out there actually putting into effect something now that can actually be used as tangible evidence that we can ourselves make a change. We're not just having a debate here. He's literally creating the devices through science to make sure that these things are followed through upon. That's something that I understand that a lot of people can relate to when it comes to conservationism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're talking about a Greta Thunberg and what she's done so far, she has, again, gotten the people to react, but she hasn't, in my opinion, and that's his only opinion. If you guys have anything, we've had this conversation. If you have anything that brings to light the science that she's done to bring up the to coincide these facts, then fine. But again, we're talking about somebody that did the science, and he's been overlooked the last 2 years, if nothing else. But go ahead.
Well, I'm going to let you know why what you said. Wow, very, very nice. Meritocracy-ish of you. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Okay. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote books. He was a sociologist. He did all kinds of great things for society. And we know W.E.B. Du Bois. We know him. And he's a great guy, right?
Yeah.
But who is the greatest of the civil rights leaders?
We'd have to go with Martin Luther King.
We'd have to go with Martin Luther King.
Martin King Jr. I'm sorry.
Right?
To make sure
you see me over here looking to the right. It's because we're here to take for a live studio audience. I am including the conversation. We would have to go.
Thank you for being.
We would have to go with Martin Luther King.
Of course.
Why?
Martin Luther King.
When you talk about Martin Luther King, what is it about Martin Luther King? Did he write a bunch of books?
No, he was the leader. I get where you're going with this, and I love what you're saying.
What I'm saying is this. No, it's not just that. The reason he was the leader is because he had something that the other people didn't have. He was charismatic.
He had the charisma.
Right. When you're talking about the person of the year,
right, you
cannot leave out charismatic. You cannot leave out a flair for the dramatic. Politics in itself is theatrical.
It is.
Look at what's going on with the impeachment hearings. The Republicans and the Democrats both are using certain timing, certain dramatics, and things like that to get certain points across. Because part of politicizing something is also there's theatrics involved in it. There is a flair for timing, a flair for the dramatic. If you listen to Greta Thunberg's speeches, she has a flair for the dramatic. When they get her up there and what she's saying and how she's addressing very powerful people as a young person is something that takes more courage than you might ever, imagine. You know what I mean?
Especially in
and to have the type of awareness, and to lead such a movement where, let's remember, in July, because we're talking about what she did during the year, made her the Time Person of the Year.
Exactly.
In July, her group, which is the Climate Strike people, 600,000 people all over the world, students, young people, walking out of school. You know what I mean? To join together, to talk about an existential threat, to bring, see, people, you said Boy and Slat, and I said, who? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
We're talking about
the power of
we're talking
getting
about
people
the
to come in.
person
Yes.
of the year.
Right.
We're not talking about the scientists. You know what I mean? That stuff gets wonky.
So let me ask you
We're
this
talking
question.
about the dramatic.
Question.
We're talking about Ali.
So let me ask you this question to go with what you're saying. So at this point, are we actually whittling down the Person of the Year award to simply just how much influence you sway across the globe? Because again,
Definitely,
when we're talking about swaying influence across the globe, that's a social media thing. That's something that you could do with a lot of different social media accounts. If I have a Twitter, if I have a Instagram, if I have a Snapchat, if I have a Facebook, if I have a Tumblr, a Reddit page, if I have a way to touch millions of masses, which is something that's unprecedented in the year 2019 that we didn't see 20 years ago, that when we're talking about what's going to be the changes coming up for the next 20 years, we're looking at a different way that you even garner the way that you gain support. We don't look at it like you really have to go out there and do the work. Now it's about what people see immediately in front of them, presented through the social media outlets.
Doing the work, they might join.
They might.
And but that's what happened with Greta.
It's just like with music.
That's what happened with Greta.
But with Greta, we also have to. She is doing the work. She
was doing something.
I'm not saying she's
not.
And
then other people decided to rally around her.
But she,
as in, if there was no Greta Thunberg, right, there would have been no climate strike.
But there would have already been people doing the same thing, and this is the same thing we talked about earlier. We have your Boy and Slats.
Wait,
we have your
Morgan. Hold on. You just said there would be people doing the same thing.
Boy and Slat.
Boy and Slat is not.
He's working on convert. I hate that word, but he's working on conservationism even before 2018. Now, again, I'm not here.
Cares.
The people that support getting the ocean clean care. When you're talking about the ocean, which covers 70% of the world, you're talking about people that are very, very, very. They're very, very invested in that situation.
Look, there's if you go to Boy and Slat, and Boy and Slat starts a movement of some sort, I bet you know who shows up? A bunch of nerds.
If that's the case,
a bunch of freaking nerds.
But we all know. But we all know. Even in today's, hold on. Let me say this, and this was the basis of why we even started this conversation, is because when it comes down to 2020 is an election year here in America, which typically tends to if you want to say, have the forefront for whatever trends in the world. We're one of those countries that do that. When you're talking about conservationism and you're talking about making change for green, the only people that are going to be interested in that conversation are nerds.
Unless they have a charismatic leader. Like Greta Thunberg. You're laughing.
I'm laughing only because
Greta
Thunberg is not that charismatic. You're not going to give her that credit. She's not that charismatic.
What do you mean? See, leadership is influence.
She's cuddly.
Hold on. Leadership is influence. And I will say, Greta Thunberg has influenced more people than Boy and Slat. She is a leader.
Of course she has. Because
and when
she's
you have
hold
on. But not only the type of leader that influences people that are like her, like Boy and Slat has a bunch of nerds around him, and you said that's okay. And that is okay.
It is okay.
But she crosses gender, she crosses race, she crosses ethnicity, she crosses nations, she brings people together from all walks of life, and she's galvanizing young people to take part in a political process, which is something in the United States. Young people, they don't vote, they don't care about politics, they're very aloof, they don't care about anything. She gets them to care. She is.
And I agree with that. And I agree with that. But again, when we're talking about actually doing the changes that you're actually talking about, there are people that are. Morgan Vague is another name that I bring up. Morgan Vague, if you do not know who Morgan Vague is, please do your homework on her. She is the young lady who actually created a bacteria, or found and identified a bacteria that would break down plastics into harmless enzymes that would feed
man. Are you an Elizabeth Warren supporter? Or a Pete Buttigieg supporter?
I am.
Because you remind me of those people. Whoever is the smartest person in the room, that's the person.
Y'all see what I'm wearing. Y'all see what I'm wearing. Y'all should know right now, I am no egghead. Please, you guys know this in your hearts.
Right.
I am a very, very conscious person of who I think I am, and I am very, very aware that I did not get a swirly and or atomic wedgie in high school, so I am not a nerd. But I do.
baby. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Here's
you
what I'll
were
tell
in
you.
a school that
Here's
was
what I'm going to tell you.
unswirling,
Here's what I'm telling you.
letting kids like you pass.
The reason that nerds don't get the love that they deserve to get when conversations like
Nerd
these
love.
come up
Nerd
is
love.
because when it comes down to the truth, we all know in our hearts that being popular is not necessarily the best answer for the problem.
Yes, it is. And I'm letting you know why. I'm going to let you know why being popular is the important part of the process.
Why?
Because if you're going to be going against powerful forces that do not want to change, you need a large group of people and a mass movement to actually facilitate that change, no matter what you've got the nerds in the back are doing.
But the nerds are the ones that are doing the science to make sure that whatever you're leading out there on is valuable to even say.
But the leaders take the stuff the nerds in the back are doing and they articulate it to the regular human beings that don't understand that jargon. And then they galvanize and excite the normal people to cry out to and speak truth to power. That is the only thing that has ever changed. If you look historically, that's what changes things. Not, oh, look at this new invention. No, someone has to grab that and tell you why it's important. Yeah, the what people,
let me ask you
they're
a question.
great.
Let me ask you a
why
question.
people, they
Who
run the
lived
world.
longer? Hitler or Dr. Mengele? Dr. Mengele, because trust me, he made it all the way to Brazil. I'm telling you, science, you cannot refute science when it comes time for the popular guy.
I'm talking about the person of the year. And when we're talking about the person of the year, you're talking about a charismatic leader.
I feel it should be a duality of it. There should be just as much of a charismatic leader as there is a scientific leader. But it will also bring me to say this, and this is the second half of this conversation, because I do want to make sure that I don't get convoluted on these points, and I want y'all to understand this is not an indictment on Greta Thunberg. This is actually an indictment also on media itself.
On time.
When Time actually set this up, I don't think that Time took into account who they should have been looking at. But one of the nominees for Times Magazine Person of the Year was Donald Trump.
Okay.
Now, Donald Trump, of course, tweeted after Greta Thunberg won the Person of the Year and immediately had an opinion on it. We all know his opinion was that she should chill, of course. She should go and do kid things. She should definitely relax. Now, we all know she has Asperger's syndrome, which doesn't necessarily lead a person to relax. So, again, indemnify those words, because instead of understanding the point of view that understanding her mental health issue, which is huge, he tried to almost make that seem like it's a kiddie tantrum, which brings me again to say, when we're talking about Person of the Year, we're talking about something that almost feels like it's a popularity contest.
Hello.
But when
let me give you an example.
Go ahead.
These are some previous Persons of the Year. The very first Person of the Year was Charles Lindbergh.
Okay. Not the Lindbergh baby.
Not a nerd.
Not the Lindbergh. He was a nerd.
Charles Lindbergh was not a nerd.
No,
he was an aviator. He was an aviator and a hero.
Pilots are nerds.
He was that
pilots are nerds.
He was Snoopy in the South with Camel.
Hold on. Ding dong. Pilots are nerds. They have to learn math. They have to learn trigonometry.
No. There's a difference between knowing things. I know things. You know things. We're not nerds.
They have to calculate flight patterns and math.
Franklin Roosevelt was the Time Person of the Year 3 times. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Nerd.
He was not a nerd.
Does he wear glasses?
Doesn't.
Does he wear glasses? I'm pretty sure in the 40s and 50s, he was a nerd. He wear glasses.
Haile Selassie was the Time Person of the Year in 1935.
Okay. Granted that we can't go and ask them what a nerd would be in their culture, but I'm pretty sure he might have been a nerd in elementary
school. Think about the type of people. Adolf Hitler was the Time Person of the Year.
He was a nerd.
Stalin was the Time Person of the Year. He was not a nerd. Winston Churchill was the Time Person of the Year.
He was a nerd.
No,
he was a fat nerd at that. Excuse me.
I want you to go back.
No shaming. I'm sorry. He was a heavy nerd.
I want you to go back, and I want you to listen to speeches by each and every one of these people.
Now, you and I both know.
Person of the Year. This is what you'll find out. No, this is what you'll find out.
What?
That these people were some of the most charismatic people.
When you talk about a Winston Churchill, Winston Churchill was part of a country that was under siege, and he was the only person that believed they could even win that war. But before he got there, he had a checkered
He
history.
inspired checkered history because the people were trying to slander him. See, they had mass media back then too. See, they
People weren't trying to slander him. His own history.
When people are in trouble, when there's an existential threat, like Germany, Nazi Germany,
I'm gonna let you take this moment. I'm gonna step out real quick.
Yes, people, listen. When there's an existential threat, when everything's to the wall and the chips are down, and there's nothing that, and they're looking for a hero, people step up, and those people that step. Winston Churchill was one of those people. Right now, we are dealing with this climate crisis, which is an existential threat, and Greta Thunberg has stepped up to the point where a 16-year-old can say something and get an award, and then the president, the most powerful person in the world, knows her name and is intimidated by her and her success.
Of course he knows her name.
Well, then hold on. That's the person.
Of course she knows her. Of course he knows her name. She actually was speaking in front of the UN. Now, has a Boyan Slat been invited to speak in front of the UN?
Maybe.
Has a Morgan Vague been asked to speak in front of the UN? No, we both know they haven't, because who wouldn't jump at the opportunity to speak in front of the UN?
What they're talking about is that E=MC² bullshit nobody wants to hear.
But nobody needs to not hear that, though.
No.
But the
I
science
don't need to know the how. I need to know the why. Regular layman people that cannot help, like they throw me in the lab with Boyan Slat, I can't do nothing but fetch his materials.
And what is wrong with that? What's wrong with you fetching his material? I talk to you people. If you ever speak to a person that understands how to put numbers and letters together in the same sentence and make an equation, listen to that person, because I'm trying to tell you, the people that we're getting as we speak right now don't know these numbers, and they're asking us to invest our heart, our soul into what they believe in, but there's no science behind it. You cannot have science, or you cannot have, support without science.
I didn't say science wasn't necessary. I'm saying we people, the regular lay people, don't need to be discussing science. We need to be discussing what we can do.
But we need to hear the science from the scientists, because we can't fix the problem by just talking about the problem. Somebody has to sit down and fundamentally. Greta Thunberg is talking about the problem. She's getting the people in front of her to listen to her talk about the problem.
You said she's just talking.
What is she doing scientifically? What is she bringing to the table to say, this is how we're going to fight climate change? This is how we're going to fucking fix it.
This is what she's doing. See, what she's doing is she is organizing the people, and she is galvanizing the people, and you are ignoring that part of the whole thing.
Sounds like a really good secretary.
It doesn't make any sense.
Sounds like she's getting her files in order for somebody else to do something bigger.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Let's just put it this way. Let's see if you can answer. Last election in 2016.
Right.
100 million people stayed home. Why?
Because apathy is the glove into which evil slips its hand.
No. Why were they apathetic though?
They were apathetic because there was nothing out there to vote for. Because
they weren't inspired to get up and vote for someone.
So you're saying Greta Thunberg is the inspiration?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I can't even argue that with him, because, to be honest, people, she is very inspirational, and I respect what she's done in with a little bit of time that she's done it in. And the one thing that I'm going to say about that is that if the one thing that Americans can take from that, you know what I mean, well, especially with what our show is about, and one of the things that we focus on is being aware. Like when you have the opportunity, and she made her opportunity. Sometimes opportunities don't get given to you. You need to make those opportunities, and she did that. And I will applaud that 100%, because even though we may be talking about other people, I might think that should have been in consideration. The one thing is she did get the people. She did grab the attention of the people. She did make the UN aware of what the everyday person does feel. And I mean, as we're growing older, we have to realize that the everyday person isn't us anymore. So I will, you know what I mean? Like, I will always go back to that. I want to keep congratulating her, because I am in her corner. One of the things that I condemn are a lot of the things that I've seen on the internet, a lot of these on Facebook and on Twitter where people are she's a 16-year-old girl. That's the first thing we need to all focus on. She's a 16-year-old girl, and she didn't do anything wrong. She brought to light things that we all should be well aware of. I know that if I'm talking to the crowd of people that are in my sphere of influence or even in my generation, we all went through the recycle, reduce, reuse years. She's not doing anything but bringing that back. So
I think she's going one step further.
I do agree.
And I have teenagers, and I'm going to let you know, they don't give a fuck about anything.
And that's when you have somebody like
they
her.
They don't care about anything.
Right, and that's adults. This is me calling y'all out. When you have somebody that is her age that actually cares about something longer than her cell phone or the guy that she likes, you guys should really take note of that. And attacking her personally, that's just, it looks bad on us as a country, especially when it comes down to the fact that we have our own internal issues that we have to deal with. But, I like to call people out. That's my indictment to you adults that have all had something to say about a child. Shame on you.
Let's move on. You know what I want to talk about? The debates that are not going to happen now.
Yes, Cory Booker, I heard, has recently dropped out of the debates. He didn't qualify. He didn't qualify.
But all
dropped out.
All the candidates have dropped out of the debate. All of them.
And you know what? But you know what the really good thing about that is I think that the debates were being misused. I think that
But that's not why they dropped out.
Why did they drop out?
The candidates dropping out of the debates, they dropped out because the people that prepared the food and things of that nature at the university, Loyola Marymount, they're on strike.
Yeah.
They refuse to cross the picket line.
Congratulations.
Now, I think that it's a domino effect. Some did it because they're genuine. I think that some did it because other people did it. But no matter why they did it, it's a good move for all of the candidates to refuse to cross that picket line.
Look,
I wish it would stand up for unions in other ways other than optics.
Look, when it comes to strikes, and this is something that I want to congratulate the city of San Bernardino as well on. When it comes to strikes, you have to make sure that you have your ducks in a row when you decide to walk. If you're not going to hold debates because the people you feel are being mistreated, I need to see that more so in your stance even before it comes to that. You know what I mean? Pete Buttigieg, God bless him, he's got his own problems in South Bend. So I don't really believe that Pete Buttigieg was a forerunner on this particular situation. I could see Elizabeth Warren doing it, but Cory Booker's out either way it goes. Well, that's kind of sad to hear. But yeah, Cory Booker's out.
What's funny about it is that when qualifying for the debate, Booker, Castro, who are a black man and Hispanic man, they both said it was a shame that was all white. Now this is the problem that I have though.
Yeah.
This is the problem. They blame the media. The reason though that you didn't qualify for the debates is because of the voters.
Yeah.
The reason you didn't qualify for the debates is because of us.
We don't want you. Can I get a high five on that? On air.
Exactly.
We
don't want you.
That looked bad.
We don't
want you. We don't.
So they're trying to blame it on some kind of racism or like the party doing something, and they forget that Andrew Yang qualified. He is a person of color. I think that they need to basically just face the facts that nobody wants a centrist Obamaite like Castro and Cory Booker.
You're just not that guy, bro.
Man, why are you in a rush to go? You're a senator. You got Rosario Dawson in your bed somewhere right now. I'd probably rather just stay at home. Chill.
But I mean, when you think about it, he got to stand up for something. Stand up for something, fall for everything. You can't just be that guy.
Be a senator. Just be a senator.
Nah. Oh wait. I like that he actually stepped up out of the motherfucking shadows and he did something about it.
What do you mean out of the shadows? He's a
senator, but he stepped up to actually run for president. We have 100 senators.
Are not in the shadow.
We have 100 senators, and he was one of the ones that stepped up to run for the office. So I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, but
Because you have to say some things when you're running for office that are
What
going to
do you have
make
to add?
people
Hold on.
look
What
at you
did he
different.
have to add to the conversation?
His point of view.
What? Like what?
His point of view was
Like
that
what?
we need more down home cooking.
He said.
Did you not get all that when he said you all up in the Kool-Aid don't know the flavor?
Okay. You're being. What is it? You're being the enigma that is D. Johnson now, I guess.
No, I'm gonna stop trying to crack jokes.
No,
Cory Booker brought to the conversation the simplicity of it all. Like he just wants to be president to try to make it better for him and his people. That's what he's running on. We all know that. He's not running on any overwhelming platform.
What policy does he?
That's what I'm pointing. He's on he's on a lot of different policies, but he has no ground on it. And that's one of the things that's damaging to his platform is that he doesn't have a platform. He has a multitude of different ideals that he's trying to coagulate into a concise thought, which doesn't work for him. And we know that because the voters again are seeing through that. They can see the convoluted thought process. They don't see any real direction. So you're right.
Right. And
I'm not disagreeing with you on
and
that.
then
at all.
when you're not getting any traction with black voters,
and you're black, that says a lot.
I mean, it does say something.
It says a lot. I mean, Kamala Harris, she dropped out of the race as well a couple of weeks back. And one of the things that I said, me and you have talked about this, and I've talked about this on record. She didn't do enough to earn the vote that would have gotten her at least some credibility in this race, which is the
well with black voters until she moved over to the right.
Yeah.
And so she would rather, instead of listening to her constituents and the people that were going to vote for her, she would rather listen to consultants and focus groups. And now she's out of the race.
District attorney. People in power will only respect other people in power. If there was somebody that gave her an everyday look on things, and which is one of the reasons why I feel bad for Cory Booker, because I believe he does have everyday people in his campaign who were helping him to understand the issues of the people, as it were. But again, he needed somebody that was a little more cutthroat to make him
but if people have to make you something, see, you're supposed to be something before you run for president, and then you're supposed to make your campaign. They're supposed to take on your personality.
That is true.
If you can't influence the people in your personality, and I believe that working in campaigns a lot of times is a grift job anyway.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's a lot of imposters, people jockeying for a different type of position in there that don't really know what the hell they're talking about.
Well, yeah,
and I think that there are certain candidates right now because there's so many candidates. I think that talent is spread thin, and I think that there are some campaigns like Kamala Harris's campaign that are terribly run. And
well, not just terribly run, but they're terribly executed.
Helping them, right? That's the same thing.
Well, terribly run and terribly executed. Like when you execute the plan to run it, like because it's somebody along the lines. When like let's say if I call a play out to you in football, and football analogy for anybody that's a nerd on here, nerds. But if I do but if I call in a play and campaign manager sees that it's a bad play, somebody needs to call an audible. I think that what we saw with Cory Booker and it was like also doubling down on what already wasn't working.
Well, no, I think doubling down sometimes is just you sticking to your principles,
right.
And I can respect that.
And
calling an audible, that's what Kamala did. See, first day she came out, she was, I was the first person to endorse Medicare for all. Then it was after the focus group got to her ass and the campaign contributors and the healthcare money got to her. She came out with her own other ideas for Medicare for all.
Right. It was very
that
interesting.
were with her because she was not only black, a woman, and supported Medicare for all. They abandoned her.
And this very interesting as far as why the debates have been what the debates have been. I think at this point, there's some of these candidates that are still just trying not to further expose what they're trying to present. I don't think they need to, but I do also feel like you're getting cheated. We're getting cheated out of an experience to understand. Like 3 times for me is usually the charm. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. 3 times for me is usually the charm. We had 2 debates so far, and we've narrowed the field down to who we really take seriously. So we should have that third debate. We should have a third debate to make sure that
A third debate. This is the fifth debate.
you know what I mean. I'm talking third debate when it comes to all of the candidates.
When you're
Like
talking-
first and second debates were the first
There
debates were
was
split
20
into 2
people in the
nights.
first and second.
Right. And then but it was just one debate, in my opinion. But that's just me. That's the way I look at things because they were partnered together to be one night. But at this point, we know who we know who is the serious contenders. We know who the serious players are in this game. So not having that third debate doesn't help anyone in the Democratic Party at this point.
I think it's a good idea that they don't have the debate.
Why?
Because you do not cross the picket lines. And what the Democratic Party really needs, if they're going to defeat Donald Trump, is they're going to have to be the party of working people, working class people. And you do not endear yourself with working class people by being a goddamn scab.
I understand that. And you know what? On that note, shoot, boy, I ain't going to even argue with you, boy.
Now, let's talk about something about the campaign that I want to talk about. You've got the two billionaires in the damn race. You've got Bloomberg and you've got Steyer. And then today, the advertising spend money was revealed. It was actually revealed a few days ago. And lo and behold, Bloomberg has already spent in the 2 weeks he's been here. You know what I mean? He's just had a cup of coffee in the big time, and he spent over $100 million on television ads.
Let me ask you a question as a person.
Okay, no, ask me as a dog.
I'm gonna ask you as a person and a dog.
Let me ask you a person.
I gotta ask you a question. I gotta ask you as a person because some people don't know. Because some people give me answers as a dog. That's why I'm asking.
Can I answer cricket?
If as long as you can really honestly give me a concise answer. I mean, Jiminy Cricket told Pinocchio what he wasn't supposed to do, even though Pinocchio didn't listen. So yes.
I'll try.
When you look at these campaigns, do you feel that it's fair that they even use their own money to campaign?
No, because I think that money in politics is disgusting.
I agree.
And I believe that every campaign needs to be publicly funded by the taxpayers.
Because we're the people. We're the ones that want you to do the job. You shouldn't be. I worked in a lot of businesses. And I know that Donald Trump is trying to run America like a business, but it's not. But let's just go at this I'm going to go at it with the business thought process. Mm-hmm. I worked a lot of jobs. I've worked for bad managers. I've worked for good managers. I've worked for good owners and I've worked for bad owners. And what I will say straight off the top is almost the one variable in all that is who put the work in. Good owners put work in. Good employees put work in. That's why they get promoted. Anybody that has ever been promoted for any other reason other than their hard work has never been a good leader.
Okay.
Owner or otherwise. And that's just it's simply because
what's your question?
My question is, do you agree?
No. I don't agree. I think that some people, they get where they are, right? They just come to the company, do a job interview, and next thing you know, they're above you. And they're excellent leaders, and that's the reason that they were put there.
What was on their resume?
So what?
What was on the resume?
The work was on the resume?
No, I said the work. I'm saying they might have had a resume that shows that they had the work. But like when we're talking about somebody like a Bloomberg, you're talking about somebody who has a huge advantage. If me and you got hired, if me and you got hired on the job at the same time, and I got a Armani suit, and you have or we go for job interview, and I have an Armani suit, and you have a nickel store suit, chances are the first impression that I can make with an Armani suit is a little bit better than you can with your nickel store suit.
Absolutely.
And I'm saying that to simply say that when you have billions of dollars and you can run your own campaign, no one's there to check what you're putting out in the public.
Oh well, we see it when the ad actually runs.
We of course see it, but the ads are slanted to make him look very good.
Wait. Every campaign is going to slant their ads to make the candidate look good. That's
Right.
the point.
But when we talk about somebody like Mayor Bloomberg, who was the author and facilitator of the Stop and Frisk law,
right?
We're not talking about somebody like Bernie Sanders. Of course, I mean Bernie Sanders. I'm sorry. We're talking about somebody who has a lot of a large disconnect, a lot of distance between the people and his money.
Yeah,
when you're a billionaire, you're an elitist.
We know that Bloomberg is a terrible candidate,
horrible candidate,
and we know, and he knows, he knows he's not going to win the Democratic nomination. The reason that he is here is because he wants to muddy the waters. See, the thing is, when you
same thing with Steyer. Do you feel the Steyer's the same way? Do you feel? Here's the question.
I think Steyer's a little bit more benevolent. I think that when you're talking about evil billionaires, you're talking about
Bloomberg, right?
He's a way bigger. He's a dip. See, Steyer is that guy. He's sitting at about 5 to 10 billion. He's that guy.
You're right. Bloomberg is
worth
up
over
there.
$50 billion.
He's a whole entity into one of himself.
And he has the media in the palm of his hand. The reason he has the media in the palm of his hand is because with that $100 million, where do you think he's spending the ads? He's spending it with networks.
Networks that already.
So he's paying them.
MSNBC.
Nice to him.
He's there.
But also this, he owns the Bloomberg network.
I was about to say.
So
he
now
has his own network without even getting out of bed.
No,
he can
but
get
look,
his stuff
say I'm a
taken
pundit, and I work at CNN. And I'm talking about Bloomberg, I better watch what I say because I might need a job from Bloomberg one day.
You might need a job, period.
I might need to work for Bloomberg or work with Bloomberg.
Or work anywhere within the media where you don't want to have your reputation killed. Here's what I will say about Bloomberg as well as Steyer. When you talk about billionaires getting into a race where it's the people's decision, money starts to do the same thing I was saying earlier, where it starts to make people make decisions that they may not have made without that same amount of money getting put in front of them.
Absolutely.
And that's why I never have liked the overly rich candidate. I didn't like Trump when he came out. And it wasn't just because he was Donald Trump. It was because he stood for what he stood for. He's a billionaire. He's got money, but he's not even a Michael Bloomberg.
The thing is, Hillary outspent Trump.
I know.
Trump still beat her.
I know.
So I can at least respect that. But think about it.
But Trump had Trump had the one thing going for Trump that none of these guys got going for them, right? And that was he was running against
the worst presidential candidate
of all time. And I know y'all probably thought we were going to go another way with that, but the worst presidential candidate of all time.
Well, when he won, he made her the worst. He was the worst until he won. He was the worst presidential candidate of all time till he won. When he won, now
there was nobody else.
He won.
She's the worst because she lost.
Now,
you're the runner-up to the worst.
Check this out. If you or if I announce on this show right now, friend of the people, I said, I will be throwing my hat in the race for the 2020 presidency. I'm going to be running for the Democratic primary. Nobody would say shit. Nobody would know anything.
They wouldn't say shit, but I mean, you would muddy the waters. He could just come up with his $50 billion and say, I'm going to be running for the Democratic nomination. And now he's on TV. He's got all that. That's what the money. See, that's what money does for you. You know what I mean? And that right there means this: you are a regular person. None of these people decided that they wanted to hear what Bloomberg has to say. None of these people decided. The people didn't decide, oh, Bloomberg, we need you to run because we're behind you. He decided, I have the money and I can buy people to put behind me to be in this race. And same thing with Jon Steyer, and that's kind of why
same thing with Steyer.
Yeah, that's why I'm happy that they're not doing the debate, just because I don't want them to get any more airtime.
Neither one of them qualified.
Right. It's because they don't have the votes, but they got the money.
You know what was so fucking funny about that, though?
What's that?
They said to Bloomberg, same thing they said to Steyer. But Bloomberg had a better answer. They asked Bloomberg, they said, well, Bloomberg, instead of jumping in the race, and spending all this money, and you're not going to win the nomination probably, wouldn't it be better just to kind of run things against, like go against Trump or, or do something from the outside with the money? And he said, well, I can do both. Because $100 million ain't shit to him. Ain't shit. He doesn't care. He's like, I can do both. I can run and I can still do other ads. I can still
$100 million.
to somebody has $50
You need
billion ain't nothing.
100 millions to make $1 billion.
No, you need 10 100.
10 is it 10? I'm tripping. But the point is,
so he has $100 million
that's
times 10, right? Times 10 times 50.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and just quantify that
He's
math.
never $100 billion.
He's not even losing any sleep over the money he dropped. Same thing with John Starr though, but that's also that's kind of been the issue I've had with both candidates is that your money is long enough for you to make any mistake you want to in this race and just about buy yourself out of it. But your money is good enough for those mistakes not even become public.
Okay.
And people are really hard on Bernie because he had the heart attack early in the campaign. It's going to be something that dogs him out. But I mean, these are two, like John Steyer is a who minus the money. You know what I mean? The money will, and people that are voting for John Steyer, if you even
calling him John, his name is Tom.
I call him John because I don't know who he is. Exactly. Even with $1 billion. So even with $1 billion, can't know who he is. The other half of that is the fact that Bloomberg is who Bloomberg is. I mean, I can't even when he jumped in the race, I was like, what? Why? There's only one reason you could possibly jump in the race, and that's because you believe that you can take a dent out of Bernie's numbers because
why Bernie? Wait. Why Bernie?
Anybody's numbers.
Who's voting? Who was sitting there saying, I'm voting for Bernie Sanders? That's going to say, oh, wait, Bloomberg's in the race?
Again,
now I'm going to vote for Bloomberg.
I went nuts when I heard the announcement because that was the only thing I could take of is they were trying to because why would you put he's not even the guy. Like there's nobody that even puts him in the Liberal Party in the same conversation. He's not even that guy.
The thing is that Bloomberg actually helped Bernie. Because Bloomberg is a walking, talking example. Like I always love to see Bernie and Bloomberg in a debate with Bloomberg.
Right.
He's the actual walking, talking example that Bernie can point to when he talks about the billionaire class.
Or talking about that guy over there.
Right, and how they control and how they're controlling the media and things of that nature. He has an example right there. Not only that, Bloomberg's not taking any votes from Bernie. They have totally different sets of people. But Bloomberg, you know who Bloomberg has affected? Mayor Pete's numbers have started to tail off since Bloomberg entered the race. And so basically he is poaching from Mayor Pete.
Bloomberg. He's getting Pete he's getting Pete big old feet. He's getting Pete big old feet for his people. Hey, look.
Pete big old feet?
I call him Pete big old feet.
Okay,
I always got to make that for everybody.
You might want to put that on Twitter. I mean, maybe it'll catch on.
Pete big old feet.
Hashtag Pete big old feet.
It won't last past him leaving the fucking race. So
nothing beats Mayo Pete.
Mayo Pete is good with
Mayo Pete. Because he has no black support.
No, he tried to go and look. He tried to create something. It was still just mayonnaise, y'all. He tried to make Miracle Whip, and it was still just mayonnaise.
He had to plagiarize a paper. He had to plagiarize a paper in order to pass that.
I mean, hey, look, and you know what? If when it all goes down in history,
he's your type. He's the type of guy you like. He's a
nerd.
He's a Rhodes Scholar, right?
That's what I'm about to say. If it goes down in history, that this is the only thing that we remember him for when he doesn't win the presidential election. Let's remember that he was nerdy enough to think of that.
But according to you, he should be Time Person of the Year because he got the science on his side.
I ain't gonna play with you.
We need somebody that's gonna get people out of their seats and into the ballot box, and that is Senator Bernard Sanders, to quote the lovely Nina Turner.
I ain't gonna even argue with the man on that one. I will tell you this though: let's not let Mayo Pete pick up any of those votes that he lost to, Mayor Bloomberg. Mayor, stop it, Chris. Before if that happens, we got to watch out, man. Like the effery is in. I don't want to use all the profanity on the show tonight, but the effery is in, and we got to watch out. But I agree 100%. You know where I'm gonna end up at the end of the night. It's BS all day, on here, and I don't mean BS by BS, but you mean BS by the incomparable Bernie,
right.
Bernie Sanders. The last thing to say before we tail off into this 10-minute editorial. I do want to say about what we talked about this night is we cannot let money win another election. That's what I'm really. That's my thing.
Trump won with money.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we cannot let
Because you think
money win
you
the
think
game.
Trump is evil because he's rich?
No, I think Trump is rich because he's done things that were evil.
But what I'm saying is that, do you think Trump is like that's what makes him a bad president? Is that he's rich?
No, I just think it makes him a bad
Do
president
you
because
think that
being
that's
rich,
why he won?
being rich keeps him disconnected from the people and doesn't allow him to really see what's in front of his nose. And I think
He
that
seems
does
like
make
he
him
seems like he
better.
connects with people really well.
I
Like
think
that's why he
he
has such a
connects
large.
with-
He has a large coalition of people.
He's a businessman. He's a corporate executive. That's what they teach you to do, is to connect with the people that are below you. It's just
the
the thing-
populist policies that the right wing populist policies that he ran on are extremely popular in
with
America.
right-wing populists.
And he was not playing
Guess
none of
who
that
they're really
centrist
popular
stuff
with?
that the
Guess who they're
Republicans
really popular
were playing in 2020.
Elitist right-wing people. They love the fact that he's
No,
making.
his actions are of course he helps
Just
the
saying.
elite and helps himself, and because he's violated the emoluments clause. But see, the whole thing is when he campaigns, he said something totally different. He lied to the people.
That's
What
before
he
the
said,
clause.
what he said was, see, the Republican Party, what they've done really well is they've connected with what the problems are in America. They have totally terrible ideas on how to fix it. That's their problem. They have terrible, but they understand where your pain is. They understand, oh, you're out of work. But then they say, well, the reason you're out of work is because the immigrants are taking your jobs. Or they say, the reason you're out of work is because your businesses are picking up and they're moving to China. And they're saying stuff like that. And people are like, yeah, that's why I'm out of work. Not because of some capitalist scumbag decided to screw us over. No, it's because of these damn immigrants. And they're agreeing with him. And he played on that fear. He played on that emotion. And then he also implemented protectionist policies, which are proven to work economically in the short term, but will lead to a recession behind that. So he's basically running a grift. He's a con man of the highest degree, and his con so far seems to be
pretty airtight. I will say that. But we are looking at 2020 again. I like to say that it's a benchmark year. If you don't think so, we're 20 years into the 21st century, people. Hate to make you feel old.
This was actually the 20th year.
It's 20th year of the 21st century.
The 2020 is the 21st year.
I don't know, we're going into it. If you want to look at it that way. I like the people that like to think that they're still young with the last, we had 15, 16 days left in the 21st, or in the first 20 years of the 21st century.
Who's counting?
If you're not old already, just remember that Britney Spears dropped her first LP in 2002, and she's now considered an old, crazy white person.
Okay, hey, you know what? Let's end it there. You know what? You guys have been great. Thank you so much for watching with us. Like, share, subscribe, and look out for more from the Best Case Scenario.
I'm D. Johnson.
Friend of the people, Robert Kelly.
And you've been great. Have a good night.
Best is yet to come.